The debate over the pensions. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. He did the unexpected. On Tuesday, Finance Minister Joe Oliver stood in the House of Commons and said the Harper government is open to the idea of allowing voluntary contributions to the Canada Pension Plan.
I'm pleased to inform the House that we are open to giving Canadians the option to voluntarily contribute more to the Canada Pension Plan to supplement their current CPP retirement savings. What we will not do is reach into the pockets of middle-class Canadians with a mandatory payroll tax like the Liberals and NDP would do.
Now, the opposition parties, the New Democrats, the Liberals, they've been calling for an expansion of the Canada Pension Plan for years, so they're on board with this idea, right? Wrong. New Democrat leader Tom Mulcair, outside of his Wednesday caucus meeting, said he doesn't believe the Conservatives on this.
I think that you have to look at the last 9.5 years of behavior of the Conservatives to know that this is a last-minute political attempt to convert from a long-held position. They have no intention whatsoever.
What Mulcair wants is a mandatory expansion. He wants everybody to be paying into an expanded CPP. He doesn't want anything voluntary about it. Now, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau admits that his party ran on voluntary contributions in the 2011 election, so he's on board with this idea, isn't he? Again, wrong.
It's something we've long been calling for, but in conversations with the provinces and reflection, I mean, we've realized that we actually need a proper expansion of the CPP.
Now, a mandatory plan means employers have to put in more money. Every employee, every employer has to dip into their pockets and spend more, whether they have it or not. And that was a bone of contention Wednesday in question period as Trudeau went toe-to-toe with Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
Canadians know that the Prime Minister's record on the Canada Pension Plan. In the 90s, he said, scrap the CPP and just leave Canadians on their own. Right. A few years later, he called for the Canada Pension Plan's breakup. So why should Canadians believe him now when he suddenly says he wants to expand the CPP?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Of course, Mr. Speaker, there are numerous falsehoods in that question, but what is correct is that this government favors allowing a range of options for people so they can save. In fact, Mr. Speaker, not only they can save, but they can actually reduce their taxes by saving. What the Liberal Party wants to do is it wants to force Canadians to save by taxing them, by taking their money away. Canadians do not accept that option and will not accept that option.
So there you have it, an idea of voluntary, allowing you to contribute more to CPP if you want, or mandatory plans. That's what's going to be on offer in the next election. But here's the funny thing. Listening to some of the commentary on this, you would think that a government pension plan is the only option Canadians have, and that simply isn't true. Did you know that the Canada Pension Plan is open to every employee in Canada? It's also open to the self-employed. The self-employed have to put in the whole shot, about $4,700, instead of splitting it between employee and employer, but they can join that as well. Everyone has the option of putting money into an RRSP if they want. There's tax-free savings account. And if you want a government plan, guess what? There's this thing that I just found out about called the Saskatchewan Pension Plan, and it's open to any resident of Canada. Anyone across the country can join if you want your money to be managed by a government agency instead of the banks. Maybe you don't trust the banks. You can put your money with the government of Saskatchewan and get a pension out of it in the end. There are so many ways that Canadians can save for their retirement. I'm not sure that expanding the CPP is the best one. First off, there's the whole payroll tax idea. It's mandatory. The argument is that Canadians can't possibly save for their retirement now. So if that's true, how does imposing a mandatory tax on both employer and employee solve that problem? You're just going to dip into their pocket and take it whether they want it or not. You're basically saying you don't trust Canadians to look after themselves, so you're going to do it for them. Is that the best option? I'd say no. I've looked at this information before. I've got personal family experience with this. You can pay into the Canada Pension Plan your whole life, and at the end, your heirs may not get anything. You may not live long enough to really collect on it. Let's say you work your whole life and die at age 65. You're going to get a maximum pension at just over $12,000 a year. That's it from the CPP. Now, if your spouse is also getting the same maximum pension of $12,000 a year, that's not a whole lot of money, I'll admit. But what happens if you die? Your spouse makes the maximum, you make the maximum, $24,000 a year between you. Guess what? your spouse gets nothing because she's already making the maximum. If she wasn't making the maximum, she'd get a fraction of what you set aside all those years. Take that same money, put it into an RRSP, and if you die at age 66, 67, a year or two into retirement, as happens to far too many people, guess what? That money will go to whoever you designate. Look, we do need to have a serious discussion about retirement in Canada, and are we able to have a successful retirement? Maybe we're aiming too high. We all have this Freedom 55 idea in our minds. Maybe we just need more financial literacy. But the idea of the government snapping its fingers and saying, we've got you covered, we'll just dip into your pocket, well, that's not exactly on. Allowing people this option is a good way to go. A lot of people would be confused with RRSP rules or dealing with brokers and so on. Fine, I get that. And if you want to go that route, you're open to it. You're welcome to it. But there are so many other options open as well. The Fraser Institute did a study looking at the expansion of CPP rates, which between 1993 and the early 2000s doubled. It went from 5% of income up to a maximum to 9.9%. What they found was that as those rates went up, savings in RRSPs went down. So Canadians, if you double it now, may save less in their RRSPs. Is that going to leave anyone better off? What we need is a real discussion about retirement income, about retiring with dignity. We don't need a partisan diatribe against a government that won't expand government programs, because that's all the left wants to do is expand government programs. We deserve better than that. We deserve options. Joe Oliver's promising to give more options. I say that's a good thing.